Hello guys, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
Very good. So you took Cheek by Jowl to London
Yes.
for 10 days, is it?
10 services, yes.
10
services,
So two full weeks.
And you started yesterday, so first of all, how was day one?
It was really good. Like, it was not crazy busy, which was really good. Like, it was a very steady start, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good number to start with, just to familiarise ourselves, obviously, with the kitchen
And the customers were really, really nice last night. So,
Are you used to do pop-ups?
no, this is the first time. I've done a pop-up myself when I first moved to Singapore for 9 months. But since I'm open Cheek, we've done dinners, but this is the longest pop-up that we've done.
So obviously, most of the Londoners are not aware of your restaurant in Singapore, so can you tell us about it? How would you describe it? What do you do there?
So we call ourselves Modern Australian, which is basically based on our concept and my experience and her experience. It's all in Australia, so and the ambience. It's an approachable restaurant and very relaxed, but something different that you really can't create at home. If that makes sense.
it's about the food, it's about the hospitality, it's about walking into somewhere and feeling, comfortable, at home almost, but not. But you have that really friendly, approachable staff and.
So I can see many cultural backgrounds mixing, Australian, Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka, but it's Australian cuisine in Singapore. So how did you get there? And
I think that's the funniest thing, Sri Lankan cooking Australian food in Singapore, and that's just funny to start off with. So it's so I moved to Australia when I was 18. And then obviously I met her when I was 19, and then most of our relationship was built on the fact that we actually want to open a restaurant one day. And so it's been 12 years that we've been wanting to open a restaurant. But we wanted to gain experience in other restaurants. So we worked in Melbourne and then Sydney. After Sydney, I wanted to move back to Melbourne, but she wanted to travel through Asia. So we thought we'll move to Singapore for a couple of years. We had no plans to open a restaurant there, and I managed to do a pop-up. And our investor came and had dinner there. So then he actually offered us a space to open a restaurant permanently in Singapore. And then when we decided how we're going to name it and what we're going to call what we do, it made sense to call it Modern Australian.
Okay. And what about also the actual name of the restaurant? How did you choose that?
So that's in reference of us working together. So we were thinking we wanted a name to represent obviously us and us working alongside one another. So we were deciding on what we were going to name, and then we came up with we were researching, and then Cheek by Jowl has lots of meanings, but side by side, close together, intimacy, all those things. So then we thought that would be a good name to.
And it sounded fun. It's not a usual restaurant name, so I got Cheek by Jowl. It sounds really cool. So we went with it, and it does have a very nice background story, where it's our relationship.
And obviously you work together, as we just discussed, and you take care of the kitchen and you take care of the dining room. How these two sections of the restaurant work together, because there's always more and more attention to the relationship between the two and the role of the front of house.
She's the big boss.
Yeah?
So it's a lot easier. I just listen.
I wouldn't say all the time, but I think because obviously when we first met, we were working together like a long, long time ago, and we really enjoyed it then as well. And I think it's very you have to when you work so many. Obviously, it's like your child, so it's a lot of work is involved. So it does help that you trust the other person 100%, and that they're there to support whatever decision that you have to make. If there's anything that comes up, you know, we're both there to bounce ideas off each other, and
It's a lot easier that I know some people think it's really hard,
and
but
weird.
it's a lot easier to have someone that you truly trust, because end of the day both of us want the customers to have the best experience they possibly could with food and service and wine. So it just works for us for sure. Like, we really enjoy it.
So what are you most proud of each other's achievements? So you of hers and you of his?
Because it's such a small restaurant, and if you really look into it, we have a group behind us. Like, we are under a certain group that has a lot of restaurants, and people may think that we have a very cruisy life, but when it's actually come down to operations, it's purely just ourselves. There's not like a massive support behind in operations, which means in a very good way they don't involve in anything, which means we have to do everything. And when it comes to that, I pretty much do the cooking part, and I pretty much come up with the ideas, and she actually does everything else, from looking after the events, pretty much I don't know, restaurant manager, sommelier, my PA, everything that has to be done in a restaurant, she does. There's so many things that I have no idea about that space.
Is that true? Yeah.
That I really need to actually ask her. Like, I wouldn't have a clue how to open the till, or I'm never involved in it.
So yeah, you're proud of all the things she manages, and you're
Pretty much.
proud of.
I think obviously, like, from where we first met, like, he moved obviously to Australia from Sri Lanka when he was young. Like, I can't imagine like moving at that age away and going to school, working so many jobs, and now to see where he is now, how far he's come, how his food has evolved. Like, really, it's something special, and it's like a lot of hard work.
Like, where we met 12 years ago, or now 14 years ago, I used to make pizza.
Okay.
And she was a supervisor. She was the only full-time staff there. It was a family restaurant in like a very suburban area in Victoria. Not even Melbourne, like, it was proper a suburban area in a Greek restaurant. But they had wood-fired pizza, so I was making wood-fired pizza.
So it's like from where he started, where he came, and how it's progressed over time, like how he's grown, and the creativity, and how his food has evolved. It's actually pretty incredible. And obviously I've been there for the whole journey, so I've seen how it's.
Like, she's seen me from a student. Like, when we met, I was in my last semester at school.
Very proud of him.
And I never was the best student, and from what I had 14 years ago and what we've achieved, like, from that point on, it was not just one person. Like, it was whatever we did together. And even when we worked in separate places, we had a plan. We knew why we were working for other people. It was not random that we had a restaurant together. That's something we planned pretty much from the day one that we met. So, yeah, it's really nice. Like, when someone asks you that, like, you go back for 14 years, you're like, oh, that's what we had.
Okay. And when did you realize you would be able to cook at this level?
It's funny because, like, when I first realized I really wanted to cook, I was a dishwasher in the kitchen. And I don't know, even then I thought, oh, I'll be able to run a really good restaurant. I had, like, now looking back at that thought, you're like, I have no idea what I was talking about. But I think that's what a lot of people miss. You know, just dream big. You know, like, it doesn't matter. Like, everything else will just fall into place if you're willing to go through that pain. You know, it took me, so from that point, for me to open a proper restaurant, it took me 12 years. And then But that's the first time that I thought, I'll be actually really be. I was so sure that it'll be really good, but I had no idea. Like, oh, it's a nightmare, but it's a very enjoyable nightmare.
So if we take, I don't know, let's say 50 Londoners, I don't know, maybe 10 of them, we know that there are Australian wines and they like them and they can tell you why probably. But if you ask them about Australian food, I mean, I'm not sure here we are aware of what that is. So
But I think like Australia is very multicultural. Like you can't really like it's not like a French food you can just like classify it. It's not like Italian food you can classify it because they have so many different cultures, so many different heritage, and these people bring those flavors and those things to the food. So it's very, very hard to.
It's really multicultural. Like, to be honest, we still use a lot of French techniques when we cook. That's still the base, but we have a very high Asian influence in our food because it's genuinely like it's one of the best places to eat Asian food in the world because of the produce. Like we have the best Vietnamese. I haven't been to Vietnam, so I can't really say. But like Victoria Street in Melbourne, like it's insane. The banh mi, the pho that you get, it's just mainly because of the produce. And then like Italian food, the Greek food in Australia, it's like there's a very good, massive saying in every culture because it's so influential and the produce is amazing. So that's the funny thing. And coming here, the last 2 days, I've spent in the kitchen with some amazing, amazing produce. And we had this discussion. So if we cook this food here using all British produce, what would that be? It's contemporary British food because all the produce comes from UK and around here. So Australia, it was a lot more to do with time and place and the culture. So it represents a lot of cultures that's there.
and what did you bring from Sri Lanka to your cuisine?
I try to really stay away from it.
Is it true?
Like I'm like this every year on Father's Day, apart from this year, like I had to push it back because I'll be here for Father's Day. We cook Sri Lankan food, and every single dollar that we make that day, we give it to charity. And that's the only time I genuinely cook Sri Lankan food. Apart from that, I really try to stay away from it. Genuinely because I don't want to be known as a Sri Lankan chef. I just want to be known as a chef. But there is one dish we have Sri Lankan influence. That's the only dish, which is a zucchini flower stuffed with a Sri Lankan mung bean stew. But looking at it, you would not have a clue that it's Sri Lankan. Only when you eat, you would know, okay, actually it has a little bit of Sri Lankan. Apart from that, that's the only dish that we have a bit of Sri Lankan influence.
And what did you decide to cook here in London during these days?
So when Carousel Fest asked us, we were like, festing, how the hell they found out about us, because that was like a year ago. And I was not so sure, to be honest, because I'm like, it's a long way. And then we started talking. I said, okay, let's do a week. And then we realized we're going a long way. I'd rather be there for 2 weeks. So we ended up staying here for 2 weeks, and we've always wanted to cook in London. Like even when we picked Singapore to move from Australia, we had 2 choices. One was London, one was Singapore. And we felt like we were not ready for cold weather, I think.
No, you weren't ready for cold weather. He likes warm weather too much, so
Okay.
I don't know if he would deal with this much cold.
So yeah, then we thought, oh, Singapore seems nice, but it's really hot. So maybe we might change our mind at some point. So yeah, we thought, oh, it's amazing, you know. There's 2 cities that most of the chefs would love to cook. For cities, like it's New York or London. And then I'm like, yeah, I'll come.
Yeah, no, did you have the opportunity to, I don't know, try restaurants here?
We were here for
Last year.
10 days last year, purely just to eat and drink.
didn't
We
know
thought
that
we might not be able to eat and drink
as much as
as much as this time, but we've done well. we've been around drinking, eating, and working.
Did you enjoy anything in particular?
Our first meal, it was random. We went to Laughing Heart, which is a wine, and we both love wine bars, and I thought that was brilliant, like some amazing wine with really, really good food. And Organic, we went to Organic, that was very nice. We had a cheeky lunch at Trishna today.
Okay.
That was nice. We've been eating and
Yeah. And then
a lot of drinking as well.
Last year we did a lot as well.
Cool. And what do you think is the next step for you guys?
That's the trickiest question people ask me these days, because now from wanting to be in Singapore for 2 years, we're into our 5th year. And we have a restaurant there. So things are slightly tricky. It's not like we can just pack up and leave whenever we want. So, but it depends on how the restaurant goes this year, and like it's been amazing. So there's few things that are happening in Singapore as well. So it all depends.
And Singapore, you know, it's very up and coming for food. How is the food scene developing? Like, I don't know. I haven't been.
It's
there,
amazing for a little
Yeah.
space. You think
Very fast. Lots of
if
choices.
you want to eat and drink, you need like a week, because there's that many restaurants and good
bars.
restaurants as well, and the bars in Singapore. Like, it's amazing how many bars are there, and they're good. Some really, really good bars.
What's the must-go place? If we go to Singapore, where should we go for sure? Apart from
For sure. Depends
It's
what you
very
want.
hard to say, like,
Follow your heart, right? Which one do you love the most?
restaurant-wise, it depends, because the variety of restaurants you get, from casual to fine dining, and some of the really like best hawker food you can get. Like, one of my favorite things to eat in Singapore, like for hawker food, there's a noodle called misua. It's like a dry pork noodles with chili and black vinegar. It's really, really nice.
But that's like that's like street food where
But it's-
really tasty.
It's really tasty, and it's $4, and it's a meal. Like, you'll be full after that. That's the most amazing thing. You can spend $4 and be full, or you can spend $1,000 and still be full.
I can't. I guess when people come to Singapore, like our friends and family, or even if we have guest chefs at our
Peking
restaurant,
duck's pretty good.
we do like certain things that we take people to, especially if they come from like say here or from Australia. It is a chain, but it's called Imperial Treasure, and they have like a super Peking duck restaurant, and they do Peking duck at the table side. So
It's
they
the best
come,
Peking duck.
The chefs carve it for you. You get the pancakes, you get the glass, and they even do like whole pork as well, where the skin is like glass, and you put it.
It's insane. Like, it's really good.
Yeah. So that's where we usually take if we have like guest chefs come or friends of ours come or family. We usually have like a Sunday session there. We take some wine and then But like food wise, you can't.
I
There's
hear
so much
there's so
variety.
many amazing restaurants there, like really good chefs for a little space.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for talking with us today. And yeah, we can't wait to try your food later on.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
thank you very much.
Thank you.